On this channel, $1 Million Made Easy, we love to run numbers for people. This is a request I got for somebody. They said they're going to retire next spring at age 55. They're currently 54, obviously. They have 2.3 million saved. So this is what we do on this channel. We run numbers for people. He's got 2.3 million saved. He says his wife's about 3 years younger. They should get Social Security of $3,000 a month at age 67, and about half of that for the wife. So it's going to be $4,500 coming in from Social Security. He said, I'd like to see this played out with a few scenarios to see how much income I can withdraw from it each year to last 30 plus years. He says, we have pension income above this, but I want to see what these funds alone can support, which for what I hope is 30 years plus. Is there a maximum sustainable rate above 4%? We don't plan to exceed 4%. In other words, 60K a year or 5K a month it always seems like a good amount, which is way less than 4% on a 2.3 million. Let me show you this. If we do 5,000 a month, that would only be 2.61%. We go ahead and run the numbers. Again, we use the data for the S&P for the last 100 years. And this is right here. We use all this data right here. Even in the worst case scenario, which would be during the Depression years and also in the year 2000 was a bad decade. Let's see how the numbers will work out. In this scenario, taking out just 2.61%, I can tell you right now, you're going to have no problem. You're not going to run out of money in any of the years, even the years like 1929 or the year 2000. Again, we haven't even taken into account in coal. Let's go ahead and put 3% coal in there, and I'll update this one more time. And you're going to see there's going to be plenty of money left. Why? Because the withdrawal rate is way below 4%. The only time you have issues with an amount that's less than 4%, I think it's like 3.2% or something, is the year 1929. Why do I say 1929? Well, we just saw it earlier. It's right here because you had all these down years. So if you start out first retire and the returns going forward would be like this, then you would have trouble if we withdrew much more than 3%. But in this case, 2.61% is no problem whatsoever. Let's move it up a little bit because he wants to know, is there a max sustainable rate above 4%? Well, we're not even close to being above 4%. So I'm going to go ahead and run this. Even 7,000 isn't. Let's see if we can get it. Let's go 8,000. That'd be a little bit above 4%. The 3% COLA. We're not taking into account the Social Security yet because that's 13 years down the road. We'll run that for just a second. But he just wanted to see what's the maximum sustainable rate. With 4.17%, you are going to have trouble in 1929 and possibly 1930. I'm not sure if there's any other years. Because I've run these numbers enough to know it's probably going to be 1 or 2% right here. This is 2% after 20 years. Again, 1929, 1930. 97.5% of the time, you're in just fine shape. This is the actual graph. You can see right here the only time. I do like to run the Depression years because some people say, why do you run the Depression year? That's never going to happen again. Well, I can't guarantee that. But I do know we do have to watch what's happening in the year 2000 because that's more recent. So let's go ahead and go up a little bit higher. This is 4.17. He wants to know the maximum sustainable rate. How about 9,000, which would be 4.7%. Now we got a problem in the year 2000. You see the reds pop up there? Because we went from 8,000 was no problem, 8,250, no problem. Well, it's starting to get down there, but 8,500 is probably going to show some red right here. You're starting. So looks like 4.7% would have been a problem in the year 2000. But one thing we haven't taken into account is in the 13th year, he's going to get 3,000 a month. So in that case, you're not running out of money. Why? Because you're going down here through here, the 9,000 a month, which is what we're running it at, which is 4.7%, is going up by 3% a year. But in the 13th year, you no longer need this 12,458 because 3,000, that's going to come out of the Social Security. So then you don't run out of money. You see the difference that Social Security made, reaching that? And if we do she was going to get 1,500. Let's just do that couple years later because she is 3 years younger. Let's just say you get 1,500 because he said she'd get half of what he gets. That's what we do as channel run, all kinds of different numbers. So in this case, Again, there hasn't been 25 years to even run the numbers, but this is 1920 numbers. I'm going to go ahead and update this, and we're going to see this percentage is going to go up just a little bit simply because we're going to take into account the year 2000 now. Let's see what the percentage comes out to be. Again, we're updated. Again, it says 2% for 20 years and 4% failure rate for 30 years. One of those is probably, well, let's see when it actually is. Got to scroll down through here and see if it's the year 2000. I'm not sure why it's doing that. Oh, because 1928. Sorry about that. So in this scenario, he could take out 9,000 a month. That's a 4.7%. He wanted to know what the maximum sustainable withdrawal rate given this scenario. And see, at this point, we can see the only issue we have is 1929 and 1930. If you don't think those years are going to happen again, the year 2000 will still be okay. If we go to 9,500, I think we're going to have a problem in the year 2000. Yeah, you can see the red starting to pop up here. That's a 4.96%. So it looks like the maximum you probably could handle is just under 5%. Otherwise, you have years like the year 2000 where you could be running out of money. We always have the issue of 1929 and 1930 that you got to stay closer to the 4% rule, or maybe even less. But the one thing we haven't even taken into account, folks, is you wouldn't leave it all in the S&P 500. You would have some kind of an asset allocation, so you'd have an account over there. I just call it a cash reserve account, but let's just say we did a 70-30%, 70% staying in the S&P 500 because you want the market to be able to come back when you get these kind of numbers. But also in a down year, you don't want this 114,000 coming out of the S&P 500 when it's already getting knocked down by these percentages. So you want something we just call a cash reserve account over here, that the money can come out of that, this 114,000 instead of this. And so this can have more money remaining in it so it can benefit when the market does go up. So let's do a 70-30 split and see if this red disappears. And it does, massively disappears. What was it before that? You were down to 24,000 after 20 years, running out of money in 21 years. Do a 70-30 split. What does that mean? That means this 114,000 you're taking out is coming out over here. And I just got this paying 3%, whatever, more of a liquid account, not following the stock market. In that case, if we update this, watch what happens with a 70-30 split. The year 2000 is no longer an issue. 1929 and 1930. Looks like 1929 is still an issue. 1930, a couple of, but the year 2000 is no longer a problem. So you want me to kind of run the numbers for him? Let's just see 10,000 a month. Update this. That'd be a 5.22% withdrawal rate. Sticking with this 70-30 split. We can look at a 60-40 in a minute. In this case, you're starting to get, once you get above 5%, well, you still just have 2% of the time you're running out of money. And 4.2%, I think that, yeah, it does include the year 2000. Again, 2000 had those 3 down years. And so even though you're getting this 3,000 in a 13th year and 1,500 more in a 15th year, it's still getting knocked down enough so that the money there isn't enough money there for it to come back when the market does come back. But hopefully this makes sense. That's what we do in this channel. We run numbers for people. Again, he wanted to know what's kind of the maximum percentage he could take out, even though he's comfortable with 5K. If he's comfortable with 5K, we're running this at 10,000, twice of what he did. And we saw in that case, yeah, the year 2000, you'd have problems. 2001, nope. 1999, nope. That would be getting down there after 25 years. There hasn't been 30 years since 1999. But that's what we do on this channel. We run numbers for people just to give them some idea of give them a comfort level that, because on this channel, we don't think the market's going to do any worse than it did during the Depression years. If you think it's going to do worse than that, I could run numbers for you, I guess, but I figure this is the worst case scenario. With the second worst case scenario is the decade of the 2000s. And we saw what it would take to run out of money using the 2000s. And we saw if you did a 70-30 split and you took out 10,000, which is twice what he said, then you would have an issue if you had returns like the year 2000. Let's change this to 60-40 and see if this changes a bit. Right now, you're running out of money in 21 years. How about a 60-40 split? Right, now it's even worse case scenario. Why? Because you're taking out 5.22, but your money over here in the cash reserve is only getting 3%. So you're actually losing ground there. How about an 80-20? 80/20. So it looks like it doesn't really matter what the asset allocation, it's what these initial returns are. They call that sequence of return risk. This is so important to understand. The year 2000 was a problem, and 1929 and 1930 was a problem. Again, why? Because you had so many down years initially. You have 3 or 4 down years initially together, it can cause a real problem. But look at the two in 1973 and 74. Would 1973 and 74 cause a problem? Let's check it out here. 1973. Now, actually, it wouldn't, because otherwise it would have showed up over here. But let's look at the numbers for 73 and 74. Looks like you'd be in just fine shape. Look at these millions of dollars. This is 1973 numbers. This is 1974 numbers. Again, most time you'd be in perfect, it's awesome shape. But I always like to look at the absolute worst case scenario, because you want to plan ahead just in case. But in this case, he can withdraw 10,000 a month in almost every scenario in the last 100 years. You still have money left after 20 and 30 years, except 1929, 1930, and potentially the year 2000. But that's what we do on this channel. We run numbers for people. Please consider subscribing. Please share this channel with others. Let them know there's a channel out there that run numbers, all kinds of different scenarios. We run numbers for people just to give them an idea of what might happen in the future, given what's happened for the last 100 years. Please subscribe, please share, please like, and thanks for watching.